motion for the approval of the agenda?
So moved.
Have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. I think I have to read out the closed session stuff. So in closed sessions, we're going to do conference with labor negotiator, government code 54957.6. Agency negotiator, myself as the board president, and the unrepresented employee, the interim superintendent. So we will convene to closed session. We should to open session. In closed session, there was no action taken. So we will go to 4B, the flag salute. So tonight I have the pleasure of Taya Gardner from
Twyla.
Twyla. Okay, thank you, Twyla. From Richard Crane is going to come up and lead us in the flag salute. Welcome.
Please stand. Right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. What's with me now? Hi.
Thank you. Pin for you. So did you bring any guests with you tonight? You want to introduce them, please? Introduce your guests.
That's my aunt and that's my cousin Lily.
And who's your teacher at Richard Crane?
Yes.
Who's your teacher?
Miss Hyde.
Oh, hi. And what's your favorite subject?
What's wrong?
Science.
Super. Science. You're the STEM student.
There we go.
Congratulations.
She was in the
And
robotics club.
robotics, yeah. Thank you very much. Okay, we will go to 4C, and per the Ed Code 54953, requires that I provide an oral summary of the salary and fringe benefits for the district executive during an open meeting in which a final action is to be taken. So I will give this information, and then the board will discuss it if there's any discussion, and then we will vote on that. So the term of the agreement is for the interim superintendent is from July 1st, 2019 through November 30th, 2020, unless terminated earlier as provided in the agreement. The superintendent's base salary shall be $235,000, payable in equally monthly installments. The superintendent shall receive an annual stipend in the amount of $1,416 in recognition of his doctorate degree. The superintendent will be entitled to the same health and welfare benefits that are offered to other certificated management employees. The superintendent shall receive a $250 monthly stipend for business use of his personal cell phone. Actual and necessary costs for business-related expenses incurred due to travel outside the district boundaries will be reimbursed upon submission of appropriate receipts as ordinarily required of any employee seeking reimbursement. The superintendent shall have a work year of 215 days and will not accrue vacation. And the district agrees to pay the superintendent's membership dues in ACSA and the Northern California Superintendent's Group. So, any questions from board members?
I don't have any questions. I just had a few comments just for transparent reasons. I've had a few people ask me why I voted no on his, the date of hire and the date of ending of his contract. And I've explained to people that it's beginning July 1st of 2019 and it ends November 30th of 2020, which is 7 months that we'll be double paying for a superintendent. So I'm not happy about that, but I do appreciate the fact that he is taking a pay cut coming from Marin County. He was making a considerable amount more than he's going to be making here. So I do appreciate that.
Okay. Any other questions?
Well, just a correction that the assumption about double paying is not necessarily true. We can't see that far down the road.
So the assumption would be if we hired a new superintendent starting July 1st, type of thing, okay? You know,
So, but
we'll
we did pay for July and August.
You're right, July through them, okay. Any other questions? Discussion? Okay, if not, may I have a motion for the approval of the employment agreement for the district interim superintendent?
So moved.
May I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Congratulations. There. So I'm going to ask you to please come join us at the table. And the work starts now, and it's always started. But I want to do one more thing, and then we'll take a break. I want to go to 5A and do the oath of office for our two student representatives, one from Tech High and the other from Rancho Cotati. So we have Juliet Kaufman and Devin Detheridge. Did I pronounce that right? Okay, you'll come up front, please. So I'm going to ask you to raise your right hand. Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name. Okay. Do solemnly swear or affirm. That I will support and defend the Constitution. Of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California. Against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And that I will bear true faith and allegiance. To the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California. That I take this obligation freely. Without any mental reservations or purpose of evasion. Reservations or purpose of evasion. And that I will well and faithfully. Discharge the duties upon which you're about to enter. See, I can't see. The last part is, and will faithfully discharge the duties upon which I'm about to enter. Congratulations. So I'd like to take a break right now, and those in the audience that haven't met Mike or met our student representatives, feel free to introduce yourself. We'll take a short break, and then we'll reconvene after everyone says hello. And I think the press wants to take some pictures too. I think that, okay? Thank you. convene back
I
to
know.
public session, and we will do 5B, Resolution 1920-1, authorizing 2019-20 student board members, Juliet Kaufman from Technology High School and Devin Detheridge from Rancho Cotati, to make motions that may be acted upon by the Board of Trustees except on matters dealing with employer-employee relations and closed session. So, any questions? If not, may I have a motion, please?
Move we approve resolution 1920-1.
Thank you. Can I have a second?
I'll second that.
Roll call?
Trustee Brown?
Yes?
Trustee Chino?
Yes.
Trustee Gillies?
Yes.
Trustee Nahn?
Yes.
Trustee Wilkschmidt? Yes.
Okay, thank you. Motion carries 5-0. We'll go to 6, public comment. I have 2 public comments that aren't on the agenda. So first, Kathleen Eckert. Welcome.
Well, thank you so much. I've been a resident, it'll be 42 years in September, because I'm still 39. I've always thought that was a little odd, you know, that I could live here that long. And I can't recognize this campus as I did years ago when my 2 children were students here. It was the junior high. It really, really looks wonderful. And I only hear outstanding comments about what you all are doing here at the Tech Middle School. So congratulations. And the other schools as well. I was on the SMART train. I almost wore my SMART t-shirt, but I thought I better be careful. Some people don't like the SMART train as much as I do. And so I didn't wear it, but I saw Teresa, my secretary. It was early May, and she said, well, how are you doing? I said, fine, how about you? She said, well, I'm doing well, and it's going to be better because, you know, Mike is going to be retiring. And I said, is he old enough? And as I look around tonight, I guess he isn't. And I'm so glad you're here. I was at Marguerite Hahn when you were here the last time, and then I retired 9 years ago. And I respect this gentleman so much. He is a true friend to come back here at this very important, pivotal moment in the district's history, to come and guide us through what could be a difficult time as it is for most of the districts in our state. And I really thank Leff Brown. I've known him for many, many years. And you have done so much for us, and each and every member of the board. I don't know many of you, but I read about you. I appreciate your comments. I appreciate your input. You have families, you have jobs, and yet you're here. So it's made a great difference. And then so many of the parents, I have a parent last year teaching, and the administrators. I hope to come and visit your schools. I was a mathematics mentor teacher for a period of time. My whole family is a STEM family. And I'm just really excited to see what's going on here. When I first started teaching, that was in Marin County at Hamilton Air Force Base, I had been a student teacher there. And then I was able to get a job. We had 2 assignments, so I got the job before I left to go and teach in Larkspur, Corte Madera. And I taught there for 5 years. Now, I loved the children and the many wonderful people and great experiences here, but in all honesty, the finest educational experience I had as a professional was in Marin. It coincided with the time that California was at the top in the nation. I have vivid recollections of what it was like. We didn't have a lot of money. We didn't have a lot of money at all. We had a lot of students. I taught well over 30 students. Nobody ever said, I can't teach more than 20 students. I don't do combination classes. No one even thought of it. What we knew we had to do was to extend our own learning. I got my teaching credential at San Francisco State, and everyone in the class would go on and to graduate school immediately. And I thought that's what everybody did. And then I finally realized, no, they don't. So I'm a proponent of professional education. And at that time, you had to show up in the evenings, the weekends, or during your summer vacations. There were no computers or online classes. So the teachers who actually tutored me, mentored me for those years, were well educated, they were hardworking, they knew how to work smart. And everybody bought into the purpose of a good education for the children. And my experience as an educator is when we develop good rapport with those children and their parents, and they realize that they have a purpose here. We're here to help them out, but everybody has a purpose, and we all must be accountable. It's a buy-in, and it is, without a doubt, the greatest sense of satisfaction we could derive. So I thank you all so much. As I said, I really appreciate it. I can sit home sometimes, but here you are. You show up every week, wherever you have to be, if you're a board member. Certainly now that Mike is here, and Mike, I'm telling you, I'm just so thrilled to have you. And Marin County, I have to tell you, Marin County does have the money, Jennifer. You're right. And the people down there are wonderful, but by golly, they only go for the finest. So aren't we lucky that you would come back? Thank you.
Debbie LeBoy.
Well, thank you. I'm going to piggyback on the positiveness of your message because I want to share some positive event that took place. And I'm a negligent, well, first of all, I'm Debbie LeBoy. I'm a resident of Rohnert Park. Both my sons went through the school district. They're all graduated now and done. I also graduated from the school district. I was negligent in sharing at the end of the last school year of an event I went to, and it was Mr. Matt Tranzu's congressional session that he had with his seniors, his AP government class. I don't know if he's here tonight, from Rancho Cotati. I actually took the day off so that I could be amongst the students participating in this amazing event. And the real special thing is it took place in our new theater, so that made it even more amazing to see it in that kind of venue. So he took his AP class. Throughout the whole school year, he had the students learning how to be members of Congress. So they all were given a state and their constituents. They had to learn the constituents, their state, and they came up with the bills throughout the year, and then they presented it at this congressional session. When I walked in, they were dressed really nice. They had it all organized with who the speaker was going to be, the various folks on both sides, and they worked through their bills. They did the voting. It was incredible to watch. I enjoyed every single minute of it. But what I wanted to toot Mr. Tranzu's horn and say, what I also appreciated was he stayed in the background and he let the kids do it. So when you would look for him, he'd be talking with us and walking around and allow the kids to do it. So continuing with that, I just want to continue with that encouragement of our school district. I know we're trying to do new things and bigger and bolder things for our kids so that when kids come to school, they have all these options. I know we've been talking about trying to get the trades into our schools, which I'm a huge proponent of that. Both my boys did not want to continue to go to college, so the trades would have been great for them. My older son was an auto body, and getting in, I know we do some things in the elementary schools with chefs. There's some cooking that's going on. I mean, just if we can continue to keep looking at those things that kids want to do and see how we can bring it into our schools the best we can. And I'm supporting it. I'm here to help if there's anything that I can do to help that. But I just really want to thank Mr. Tranzu and all the teachers and administrators, everybody who's trying to step it up and trying to just bring out the best in our kids and finding their gift and going for it so that when they're done, they're ready to change our world. So just wanted to thank Mr. Tranzu and all of you for making it happen. So thank you very much.
Okay, we'll go into communications. So student board members, ready for the other one's pertains to an agenda item. Ready for your first student report? So what I'll do is I'll start with I'll start with Devin the first time, and then next time Juliet will go first. Okay?
All right. Is this on? Cool. All right. So summer has reached its close, and our Cougars are excited to begin a brand new school year. Rancho has begun adjusting to our new 7-period block schedule, and many favor the change. To welcome back teachers and staff, I made welcome back goodie bags with apples and caramel, which I delivered on their work day. As a welcome back to our students, our class reps made welcome back paws, which are signed with each student's names. ASB began preparing for the 2019-2020 school year and met several times over the summer, as well as sending some members to a core leadership camp in July. We have begun planning our welcome back rally, which will be on September 5th, as well as planning the Jostens Leadership Retreat, which will take place on September 16th in the new Henry J. Sarlott Gym. The class of 2020 is very excited for this year. So far, we've painted the senior stage, which the seniors got to sign, and had our senior sunrise. Earlier today, we had our freshman class council elections, and next week we'll be having our clubs rush to advocate students to become more involved with clubs on our campus. My goals for this year include incorporating philanthropy and ASB, as well as representing our students the best I can. On behalf of our ASB class, we would like to congratulate our new superintendent, Dr. Wampaw, and welcome him to the district.
Prior to the beginning of the school year, Tech High ASB was hard at work preparing for the transition to our new campus. Despite not being able to actually be on campus until the day of the event, freshman orientation went by without a hitch. All students, both old and new, had an opportunity to view the campus, catch up with their friends, and get their schedules, creating an air of excitement for the new school year. This event, in particular, was a home run for us, as not only did it cause freshmen to feel welcomed and excited for the school year to come, but it marked the beginning of an era for Tech High, one where we can play a greater role in our community. As you may know, school started last Tuesday, August 13th, and students were finally able to experience what they had been waiting for, life on our new campus, our own campus. Although it is quite different from being on an actual campus instead of in our usual hallway, I can personally assure you that we are ever so grateful for all the time, money, and effort that you, as well as all of the Tech High faculty, have put into our new home. We are still adjusting to our new environment, but it is truly a magical feeling to step foot on your own campus for the first time. My favorite thing about our new campus is that there is something on the campus for everyone. Whether you enjoy the new classrooms, the student center, the two, and may I repeat, two shops, which is my personal favorite, the student store, the MU, the playground next door, or any of the wonderful features of our campus, there's an aspect of our campus for everyone, creating a sense of inclusivity and community amongst our student body and faculty. Speaking of community, which is ASB's focus for this year, last Friday, PTSA held a back-to-school barbecue to introduce Tech High students, families, faculty, and surrounding community to our new home to help kick off the school year right. At the events, ASB members gave those who were interested, whether they be families or just curious community members, a tour of our campus. It was quite wonderful to see our loved ones and our beloved community to interact with our new home. On the topic of visiting the campus, if you have not already come to our campus, we would love to see you there and introduce you to our new home. As the school year begins, fall sports commence. There are plenty of games coming up, so feel free to come support our Titan athletes. Furthermore, ASB is working hard on some upcoming events, such as the Welcome Back Rally and Dance on August 30th to celebrate our move to our new campus and kickstart the school year with an air of positivity, and Club Rush on September 6th to introduce our students to Tech High's wonderful variety of clubs and help them join one that they are interested in, thus creating a sense of belonging amongst our student body. One of the greatest aspects of our new home is that on Fridays, ASB can now hold lunchtime activities with music and fun games. This is quite exciting as not only does it give ASB the opportunity to be more creative with our work, but it increases that sense of community that we are so focused on this year. Through these events, students are able to share similar experiences with each other, causing them to grow closer and relate to one another. And they are able to express themselves and feel like they belong, as if they are family, which at the end of the day is the greatest aspect of Tech High. I and everyone else in the Tech High family hope that you will join us in our new journey, witnessing all the amazing things that our incredible students do this year at our new home. Thank you and enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you. So we have 7B, Ronan Park Cotati Educators Association report. David, welcome.
As others have said tonight, welcome to the new school year. Dr. Wampaw, welcome to our group, and hope you enjoy your experience. It is fun to see the excitement of a new school year. After a series of adventures during the summer, it's always entertaining to see what it's like for students and probably for teachers as well, the challenge of getting up early again. On the first day, there's lots of enthusiasm. Many of us are sleepless the night before, school starts. There's plenty of nervous energy and wanting to do things just right this year. We're excited to see friends and catch up on what's been happening, but by the end of the first day, everyone is exhausted, and nobody seems to have trouble sleeping that night. As our year-round school, Richard Crane, got a jump start in the new year, students returned on July 16th. Summer preparations for the new school year contain a never-ending list of things to do. The four-letter word for summer is W-O-R-K plus W-O-R-K. And we cannot begin to adequately thank so many that were involved in creating, organizing, putting together, doing a lot of things that I don't have talents to do, but helping to create beautiful schools to help us be prepared for this new school year. A few weeks ago, I had the pleasant opportunity of meeting with our brand new teachers. There was a lot of enthusiasm, a lot of excitement, and a lot of nervous energy. I do wish them well as we and they begin to educate our students. It's a challenging career where our charge is to stir their hearts and minds, those who are entrusted to our care, and to prepare them for their futures. And once in a while, we see the results of those labors. A student might give a thank you, might write a note, might come back and visit, or in elementary school, they might give you a hug. All of that is a short way of saying thank you for what you're doing. And it gives a whole new meaning to the phrase, I'm just a teacher. As a teacher at Technology High School, I am really in awe of how much work has gone on. I cannot even begin to count the thousands and thousands of hours that have gone into creating the campus. At certain times, there have been more than 100 workers on the campus, and they're always trying to find out what's the next project to work on. It's been a massive undertaking. And since there is still so much more work to be done, it's going to be fun for our students to get educated on what's this type of business like. So I think this is going to be another wonderful gift to our community. Finally, I wish the very best to our bobcats, leopards, panthers, mountain lions, cougars, sea wolves, jaguars, tigers, and titans. Let's have a great year.
So 7C, receipt of official correspondence. Mike, do you have the letter from that was sent to Tony Rourke? You want to?
I don't.
You go, okay. Well, yeah.
Do you want to go?
You can. So this is something that Dr. Harrington sends to us, so it's addressed to our previous superintendent. If you
Sure.
want to take a second and just summarize that? Sorry.
No worries. It's, by the California Education Code, the county office is required to make visits to school sites to ensure that the school has adequate instructional supplies for all students. And so visits were conducted at Thomas Page and John Reed for the period July 2019, and all pertinent information was included, and there was no findings of any Williams settlement issues.
Okay, thank you. And the other correspondence we got was the Sonoma County Quarterly Treasurer's Report for the quarter ending June 30th, so no problems there, just kind of.
Just information.
Just information.
Just a low interest rate.
Okay. All right, so we'll go on to 8, the consent agenda, and I believe, Tim, you have to rescind yourself
Right.
from 8C.
I recuse myself
Or
from
recuse yourself.
item 1725565.
Okay. We did not pull any of the items, so may I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
Well,
Can I-
so if you want to not vote on something, you have to pull it.
Or if you want to discuss it, yeah, we should have, when we did the agenda thing, we should have done that at the beginning of the meeting type
Sorry.
of thing. So if we've already approved the agenda. Can we go back and pull something if somebody wants to pull an item from that? Okay.
Should be able to.
So if there's an item A through J that's on there that you want to discuss or pull, let me know.
I have questions regarding both the warrants for June and July.
Okay, so we're going to pull 8C,
Yes.
okay? And then Joe, did you want to pull something?
G,
Pardon me?
G.
G, okay. So then, we will vote on the consent agenda for A, B, D, E, F, H, J, I first. May I have a motion for that?
Make a motion to approve
A, B, D,
A, B, D,
D,
E, F,
G.
H, I,
yeah, H, I, J.
J.
Have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, then we'll go to 8C. Carissa, you had questions about the warrant register?
Two questions. I had sent you, Robert, an email, and you answered all my questions. Thank you. The two areas I have concern, and we probably need to discuss or at a later time, is going to be the PG&E. That's creeping every month. We're about 73,000. And I'm sure part of that's the tag building. I think at one point we were at about 52,000, about this time last year. So we have about a $20,000 a month increase. And then the other one is the Clean Smart Solutions. I can't recall if we had put off discussing. There's a check to them for 20,000 some odd dollars. I'm sure it's janitorial supplies, et cetera. But I recall that we were going to look around to try to see if we could find some more local and on everything that's been going on. So how do we get those two things talked about going forward?
Well, I can comment on the one for the custodial supplies. So one of the things we've done in the past and we're currently in process of doing is going back out and reviewing our vendors that supply our custodial supplies and doing that price comparison. We're almost finished with that work, and it'll be something that we'll be presenting. And basically, we're still, continuing to look for the best bang for our buck. The custodial supplies that not only are the best price, they're going to be safe for us. They're going to work with the things that we have in place, and it's a product that we can use and that works for us. So that's all part of the consideration. Price is a factor on that. Obviously, the 20,000 or so you're talking about, those are warrants for starting for summer, where you have to get a lot of cleaning supplies and whatnot for custodial as they do their summer work. And then as we move forward, there's going to be also, just replenishing supplies and that type of thing.
So about when do you think that that's going to be ready for us to look at?
It should be ready soon. So I think we'll report out what the results of that study is and that price comparison. And we want to leave options open on, again, just getting the best, but there are things that we buy in bulk and we want to shop around and make sure we get, as I said, the best bang for our buck.
Okay. And then what, if anything, can we do regarding getting the PG&E costs down?
Well, I'm not sure if you're aware, we actually have a system in place now. We have an energy specialist that works part-time, Larry Hendrickson, with us, and part of his job is to go around and make sure that people are doing what they need to do to help conserve energy. We do actually have a pretty good system in place that will electronically control the thermostats throughout the district. And that has proven to be a saver in and of itself. So we're able to control during the summer months and off times, the weekends and that type of thing, turn the thermostats off and so they're not just running throughout. Now, we also recognize just in general, PG&E costs are going up and the cost of the fires and the bankruptcy and all that, everything else is I believe playing into that. The other thing when you're dealing with your electrical providers, yes, you can compare it to this time last year, but it's very circumstantial. Hot days, you're going to use more energy. The PG&E also has a rate structure and an on-demand time. Those rates are going to cost you more when those peak times kick in. So there's a lot of factors playing into those numbers, and You know, it isn't just, comparing it to where we were last year.
Now, I know at one point there was something we entered into, and it was before you and before me, but some sort of a 3-year contract with that software, I don't know what else to call it, the monitoring that's done of everybody turning off the lights, those sorts of things. But there was some language in that, and I can't remember the firm off the top of my head, that if we didn't meet, if they didn't help us meet our expectations, that we didn't have to pay for some sort of that service. I think Josh Savage might have been involved in those discussions. It was some time ago.
I think that service is gone. We're no longer.
Yeah, I just can't remember what it was.
Well, I can get a little bit more details and.
What might be interesting to see is, you know, a rate comparison from last year to this year. So if we've gone up 10 or 20%, how much of it is driven by rate and how much by usage? Obviously, we've opened new facilities. Hopefully, the facilities we're building are having much more energy efficient equipment in them, type of thing. But if our energy person could give us just a summary of, you know, how much it increases are due to rates and how much to usage, that might help us understand. And then my last question, I'm not sure, but I guess ask the question, for this year's budget, how are we budget-wise for PG&E comparison to actuals?
Well, for this year compared to last, or we're closing the books. So we budgeted last year's, based on last year's numbers, plus with the addition of the tag building, we know we upped that a little bit. One of the things, I don't know what the numbers are off the top of my head, but when we go through the budget throughout the year, we kind of monitor our bills and kind of see where we're at with that.
Right.
Particularly at our interim reports, that's one of the areas we kind of focus on and do some estimates and make sure that we're going to be on track on our spending, that our budget's adequate for that. So it is an area that we look at regularly.
Okay.
Now, I wasn't on the board, but does anyone recall why we didn't look at solar for the tag building? Were the programs from the state or the federal level not available any longer? I know they have some matching dollars, those kinds of things for school districts that go solar. I'm wondering why we didn't look at any of those options, or we did and it wasn't discussed publicly.
We did. It was discussed publicly, and I'm sorry, I'm not remembering off the top of my head, but Josh did do a presentation. Someone asked him that question, and I'm sorry, off the top of my head, I don't remember what it was, but I believe it was looked into, and it was not as cost-effective as we had hoped. I believe that's what was discussed. And the other, I'm just wondering too, the company, was it ISE? Was that the company that did?
Maybe so.
Okay,
That might be them, yeah.
I can follow up on that and get back to you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So we'll go ahead, if there's no other questions, we'll vote on 8C. Have a motion to approve 8C, the warrants.
So moved.
Have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Opposed,
Opposed?
and on the record, that's an Ed Code violation, Ed Code 1090 violation.
Okay.
Put that on the record. Thank you.
A what violation?
It is a violation of Ed Code 1090.
And you're referring to the Tim Nam payment? Okay. We'll get clarification on that. Okay, 8G, approval of the contract with Dennis Wollier.
I misinterpreted that.
Pardon?
Sorry. I didn't understand that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I messed up.
So we're not going to,
Yeah.
but we still have to, we pulled it, so we still have
Yeah.
to vote on it.
Yes,
So-
vote on, yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay, so, all in favor of 8G? Or, first of all, let's do a motion in a second. Let's not jump ahead.
I'll make a motion that we approve 8G.
Okay, have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Opposed.
Okay, 4-1. 9A, Proclamation 1920-2, declaring September School Attendance Awareness Month.
And I'd like to call Director of Student Services, Matt Marshall, to the podium and have him talk a little about attendance.
No vacations in September
Yeah.
for parents.
Good evening, trustees, and a warm welcome to our new superintendent, Dr. Mike Wattenpaw. Welcome aboard, Mike.
Thank you.
My name is Matt Marshall. I'm the Director of Student Services. Tonight, the Board of Trustees has an opportunity to adopt a proclamation declaring September as Attendance Awareness Month. Doing so will tell students, parents, staff, and our community the importance of attending school on a regular basis. The Cotati-Rohnert Park Unified School District will be among hundreds of school districts throughout California starting the school year making this proclamation declaring that attending school is the best way to create a bright future for our students and community. Why is attendance so important? Here are just a few sobering statistics about the importance of regular school attendance. 83% of students who are chronically absent, that means if you miss 10% or more of the school year, 83% of students who are chronically absent in kindergarten and first grade cannot read at grade level by third grade. Students not reading at grade level by third grade are 4 times more likely to drop out. By sixth grade, chronic absenteeism becomes a leading indicator that a student will be a dropout. High school dropouts are 8 times more likely to be incarcerated than people with high school diplomas. Every year, over 1.2 million students drop out of high school in the United States. That's 1 student every 26 seconds, or 7,000 a day. High school dropouts are not eligible for 90% of the jobs in America. With those kinds of statistics, it's clear that attending school on a regular basis is vitally important. At this time, I'd like to call up my colleague, Rocky Schumann, to briefly review the various programs and strategies we employ to ensure our students attend school every day. Mr. Schumann?
Thank you. And I would also like to welcome Dr. Wattenpaugh to our district. Welcome back. I was here when you were here before. And hello, board members and everyone else and the audience. So a number of the things that we do in our district to support students coming to school. We have contracted with an agency called A2A, that stands for Attention to Attendance. And they are the folks that send the letters to the parents when their students are truant, when they do not come to school. We received lots of feedback last year from our office staff and principals around the letters that went out, and we actually took steps to reduce the number of letters that will be going out this school year. So we're only sending the essential letters that that need to go out to do what we need to do to identify students who are truant. We're continuing with the process of SART, School Attendance Review Team Meeting, and SARB, School Attendance Review Board meetings, and referral to the DA when attendance is just so atrocious that we have no other avenues to correct it. Our schools are focused on alternatives to suspension, so rather than suspending students, they're focused on making remedies that are not sending students away from school. This year, in my role as the person who's focused on attendance district-wide, I will be really monitoring kindergarten and first grade attendance and reporting those results, working with the elementary principals and their staff to support the students who may not be coming to school and address whatever the reasons are that they're not coming to school. Another focus, and this began last year, was focusing on our 9th grade students. We know that if students start off high school in a positive way coming to school, that creates momentum for them to continue through to high school, through to get their high school diploma. Every time I talk to a parent, if I'm in a meeting about attendance, if I ask students or parents, I say, do you want your high school diploma? I've never heard someone say no. So. Last year, we also started a program of Saturday school at Rancho Cotati High School. We hold Saturday school every 2 weeks, and Robert may we learned that it was a money maker for the district. Okay, it was, but we didn't lose money with the program. We actually recouped some ADA through that. We also have a program called KKIS, which stands for Keeping Kids in School. We have 2 case managers that work throughout the district to focus on attendance for students that are having challenges with attendance. I go visit our the two schools that SCO has for students that are not in our district, who are expelled, Amarosa and Headwaters, to talk to them about coming back to the district and staying on track to meet their rehabilitation plan so that they can come back and get their diploma. This year, a new program that we have happening is we have four counseling interns that are going to be managed by one of our mental health social workers. So that's going to increase our reach into the lives of students to talk about their mental health needs. And then we have initiatives that are occurring throughout the district that focus on positive interventions. We've got PBIS, which stands for Positive Behavioral Interventions and Supports. We've got the Whole School Climate Survey. We've got a program called Safe School Ambassadors coming to our 2 middle schools and our high school. And there's also a county-wide initiative called I Attend, which I attend and am participating in. So those are some of the things that we're doing this year.
Thanks, Rob.
Thank you.
I have a question for Matt and Rocky.
Yeah.
I assume that you're collecting statistics on truancy?
Statistics on, I'm sorry, Tim, I had a hard time hearing.
On truancy?
On truancy, yes.
And
the company that we employ, A2A, they collect statistics for us.
And how many years have those statistics been collected for truancy with the same parameters?
I believe we're on year 4.
And so do they collect the demographic information, grade level, and so forth? So that you can
yes, we do
compare
have, the demographic data is very limited, but we do have school data and grade level data.
So you can compare year-to-year decreases or increases?
Correct.
And
We
so-
we can also do that on the California dashboard. So
Yeah.
the dashboard will kind of track truancy and subgroups.
So can you, I know you don't have the.
I'd be
maybe the
happy to do a
information at
board
your
presentation in the
fingertips,
future, Tim, if you'd
but
like.
the question I have is, do you know the increase or decrease from last year and the year before? And then do you know which grade levels and demographics are most affected?
Not off the top of my head, Tim. It's a lot of data to digest. I can tell you that our attendance in some schools is a little improved. Right now, we actually dipped a little bit, like a lot of the county did. Last year, one of the things that set us back, remember when we had the smoke and we had to close,
Right.
that hurt us. In the previous year, we had the fires and we closed. So those are all impacting our data.
The reason I'm asking is because it seems like there would be a way to blend the qualitative and quantitative responses, and qualitative in terms of actual interviews with parents to try to discover the reasons for truancies, and then quantitative in terms of the demographics and grade levels and other statistics to be able to evaluate the effectiveness of the program on reducing truancy, because this is a thing I've talked about in terms of restorative practices, is that if we don't have a evaluation process built into programs like this or restorative practices or so forth, then the board has no way of evaluating whether or not we want to renew contracts with companies who are providing services for these programs. So I think it's just, I've spoken about this ad nauseum before, but I think it's really important that we have evaluation built into the program so that it's not just anecdotal evidence from this person or that person, whether the program is effective, but it's a systematic process of evaluation so that we can truly make informed decisions at the board meetings on whether or not to renew these programs or look for different companies.
I think key, Tim, is one of the things is enrollment is what we all, ADA is our lifeblood. And that
Right.
gentleman over there, Robert, that's what, keeping that. At one time, I remember around from total number of students to average daily attendance, do we lose about 3 to 5%? Help my memory, type of thing. And there's illnesses that, you know, bad flu seasons, the fires and other stuff, and parents taking their kids out for vacations when they shouldn't, you know, during the school year. But I would imagine, though, you know, Tim, all the things that they're doing are helping those students that they're targeting to come back. And then when they can give us some summary information, obviously we can't stop doing that, or else it, you know, a % or 2 increase in absenteeism is a disaster for our budget.
Yeah, it
So-
equates to big money.
So,
It's critical.
yeah, so, you know, I thank you for your report, and as we get more information, we can, you know, other than having a taxi service go pick every student up in the morning and bring them here. And
For
get
some
us-
students, we do that.
That's right. We do send our SRO out sometimes.
Yeah, to
folks'
do
homes.
that. So, I mean, it's, you know, what we're doing is trying to ensure the, like you say, not to have kids drop out and be successful.
I'm sure there are ways that we can look at the data and provide some summary data. I think it's important to remember we're looking at changing behavior, and we all know how well that goes if we're going to be on a diet, for example. Changing those kinds of behaviors sometimes can take longer than we might think. And so I think what we're trying to do is, I mean, kindergarten enrollment is one of those things, some parents still think that kindergarten is optional, that it doesn't matter if they go or not. But as I told Mindy today, if they miss the day B's introduced, they're kind of messed up for the rest of their life. So anyway, we lose about $54 per student per day when kids are out. And so we want healthy kids in school, but we also need to remind our families that it is the major source of revenue for the school district. And so when we have better attendance, we have greater resources.
Thank you.
I have a couple of questions.
Sure.
Do you know what is the dropout rate at Rancho?
The
You
dropout
men-
rate?
Yeah, you mentioned the dropout rates, and so I'm wondering if you know what it is at Rancho.
Not off the top of my head, I know it's very small.
Okay,
Uh,
and that just
but
goes
I
to,
think last year we were one of the top in Sonoma County as far as graduation rates.
I was just looking, when you were talking about the statistics of the dropouts across the country,
Yeah.
et cetera,
Uh-huh.
I had a feeling ours was pretty low, and we probably didn't fit some of that criteria. When you talk about, instead of suspension, you're talking about restorative justice?
Right, what Mr. Schuman said?
Mhm.
Yes, would you like to know about that?
I'm going to have questions later about that, of
That's-
what we're doing and what kind of training we're giving our teachers, and are they prepared? Are they happy with what the tools that they have to do this? Or do we
Sure.
need to look at bolstering some of the tools that they have at their disposal and more training?
You bet, I'd be happy to talk about that.
And then just on an aside, for kindergarten and first grade, one of the issues having small grandkids, if they're sick with the fever, they don't go to school.
Right.
And if they're sick 3 days in a row, they need a doctor's note. Trying to go to Kaiser to get a note because your child has a cold is really difficult. I've been through this with my daughter and my grandkids. So, and when you're exposed, I keep telling her they're sick all the time. It's this exponential. You have kindergartens and you have siblings, and they go to school with other kids who have siblings, and so you end up at flu season. My granddaughter, who's now in 6th grade, every year has gotten a truancy letter, and it's all because she has a cold and a fever and she can't go to school. So I don't know how targeting, I get what Mike was saying about kindergarten and parents don't think, but it's a tough one for parents. What do you do with your kids when they can't go to school because they're sick?
Right, and many families find themselves in that boat. And some of our savvy office managers suppress those letters to the best of their ability. Some do get through. Also, California has one of the most strict truancy laws in
Yeah.
the United States. I mean, you miss three days and you're a truant.
Yeah.
And for a kindergartner, first grader, for the first time exposed to all these germs, that's
Yeah.
pretty easy to do.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Okay, so we need action on 9A if there's no other discussion. May I have a motion?
I make a motion that we approve Proclamation 1920-2.
Have a second?
I'll second.
Roll call? Yes?
Yes.
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 Okay, 9B, Julie, I believe
This is
approval
kind
of the California Interscholastic Federation representatives.
Thank you, I'm sorry. This is our annual approval of
Right.
our members that will represent us on CIF, the California Interscholastic Federation. And again, we have our high school principals, one assistant principal, and our athletic director.
Okay. And their job is to?
They take action, they get to vote, they represent us in league decisions, all that fun stuff, getting to
Right.
deal with sports, and they do it really well.
So when they change leagues and stuff like that, or rebalance stuff to different schools, they're involved in that
Yes,
decisions, okay.
yes, they get to provide input.
I know, it's just protocol and things, but. Any other questions? If not, may I have a motion, please?
I move we approve the 2019-20 California Interscholastic Federation representatives.
Have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. 10A, Personnel Services, ratification of Personnel Action Report 1920-1A certificated. Any questions? Lots of names and stuff at the beginning of the year, so. If not, may I have a motion, please, for 10A?
I move we ratify Personal Action Report 1920-1A certificated.
Have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries 5-0. Ratification, 10B, ratification of Personnel Action Report 1921B classified. Any questions? If not, may I have a motion, please?
I move we ratify Personal Action Report 1920-1B classified.
A second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Opposed, motion carries 5-0. 11, Business and Operations. We don't have anything under that. There's no public comments, so we'll go to 12A, Fiscal Update and Planning.
Okay, so first item that we have on there is on the 2019 state budget. So the state budget was approved and signed on June 27, 2019. We had our board meeting 2 days before that. So some of the information that I discussed with you at that time were things that we were hearing that would be in the budget, but we didn't have a lot of details. So some of the significant changes in then, and we talked a little bit about this, but increase to the CalSTRS employer contribution rate. That went up from our May revision estimate. From 16.7, it increased to 17.1%. And then we had a, excuse me, corresponding decrease in CalPERS, the classified side, where the May revision rate of 20.733 decreased to 19.721. Well, what does all that mean? Basically, it was a net change of increase to our budget about $27,000. And so anytime we have any changes in salaries, it's going to impact, that will be impacted by these rates.
Okay.
So a net change of 27,000. We also talked a little bit about the special education early intervention preschool grant. So this was a new grant, a new source of funding for California school districts. Is intended to fund preschool 3 to 5-year-olds with an IEP. And the good news is that these funds will be allocated directly to the district. So that means they're not going to go to the SELPA and filter through the formula where most of our funds go through. So they'll come directly to the district. Funds are estimated to be $8,975 per student, and that's based on our pupil count of those students. Right now, we have an estimate, but it's based on the December 2018 count, which means we're looking about $646,000, which is a good sum of money.
Wow.
What that's going to do is going to help us with our preschool costs. It should lower our contribution that we have, that we fund special ed. The couple things, though, that's a little bit challenging on this is the fact that the budget bill only had appropriations for the 1920 school year. So there was no ongoing appropriations, which means we have to treat this like one-time dollars coming in. We're hoping that that will be dealt with and it will be an ongoing source of funding. Right now, it's going to be a little bit challenging as we're going to be able to recognize those dollars in the current year, but in our multi-year projections, it's going to impact us. Like, it's going to be a swing going back the other way on that. We'll know what the actual funding is based on our December 2019 pupil count, and we're hoping it's going to be even a little bit higher than what we're estimating here. Special ed also had a piece in there to level up their funding to the statewide target, and that would be affecting the SELPAs. However, the Sonoma SELPA is not a low-funded SELPA, and what that means is we're not going to get any, the SELPA will not get any additional funding from that. The idea was to level up the ones that are lower funded to a certain level. So that's pretty much the changes on the state budget. News, the STRS and PERS, that's already in our budget, or we've got that in place, and we're going to be, if we haven't adjusted it, it's adjusting already. We haven't budgeted the special ed dollars yet. For one, we don't have a SACS code yet, so we're not sure where that's going to be. And so when we get that set up, we'll get that booked, and you'll see it in a future revision.
Robert.
Yes, sir.
What's SACS code?
Standardized account code structure, I'm sorry.
Okay.
That's our accounting system, accounting format that we have.
So we went $49,000 further in the red. Is that how I'm reading this correctly? A negative number?
Oh, so you're on to the next.
Oh,
item.
sorry.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I have in front of me.
Yeah, so what you're going to see in there, we have our budget summary, which in order to provide the board with monthly updates on our budget, you're going to see those documents, and it's going to be comparing 1 month to the next month. That's including all of our changes in the budget, revenues, expenditures, and you'll see the change on there. The details of that would be in the budget revisions that you just approved earlier. That particular one had to do with our dollars for, low performing block grant. And with that, we've already got the dollars in 18-19, so we have to budget the expenditures, and it creates the effect like your deficit spending on that.
Did we
We
spend
already
that
have
money
money.
already, or is that money in a reserve?
The money is part of our budget. It's basically sitting in a part of the budget as part of the reserve. So
Okay.
it's restricted dollars. It doesn't impact our
Okay.
our fund balance, unrestricted fund balance. So we basically just pulled it out to fund the part of the expenditures for this year.
Okay.
So you're going to provide this monthly now as part of our discussion that we had earlier in the
Yes.
year? Okay.
So at any given point of time, you should be able to see what the changes are. Or basically, the intent is really to see where we're at that point. Now, the other part I wanted to point out on that is the beginning fund balance. That is an estimated beginning fund balance because we haven't closed the books yet. And when we close the books, that number will be updated.
Are you expecting it to go up or down?
It better go up. The next part is on the 2018 unaudited actuals that I just talked about. They will be presented at the September board meeting. Closing process is about a 3-month process, and we're kind of in the middle of that now. The business office goes from from a budget adoption through up to June, and then we shift gears to start closing the books. So another busy time of year for us. The next thing I wanted to talk about was on the facilities update. And with that, just to give you an update, Technology High School, we all know it opened on the first day as promised, hooray. Contractors continuing to work at the site, working through increment 1 and 2 on the punch lists, kind of finalizing those. The good news is we got approval today on increment 3 from Department of State Architect. That's something to celebrate. The next step in the process will be now that the architect is going to be working and finalizing the GMP, the Guaranteed Maximum Price. Our process has been to meet with the Facilities Committee, review that before bringing it to the board for approval. But we do know that we want to move that quickly so we can continue to work at that site. So there's very likely we'll be needing a special board meeting to approve that when we're ready.
Do you have any idea how much it increased from what we initially talked about to?
I have no idea. We just got news on the increment 3, and we'll find out when the architect's done with his work with it.
That's about like 2 weeks, right?
Pardon me?
1 to 2 weeks.
Yeah, I think it's about a week. I'm expecting about a week that they should have, we're gonna get a little bit more information from them. And then we're gonna start, I'll throw some dates out for the facilities committee, so we can start working on that and try to move this on the fast track.
Good news.
Okay. Lawrence Jones Middle School, Performing Arts Building, the band room is complete, it's being occupied, looks pretty nice. If you haven't been over there already, take a look at it. They're continuing to work through the punch list, kind of the final items on that. So they did a lot of work during the summer to get that ready. Monte Vista roof rehab, that was one of the other projects that we had going on. The work was completed over the summer. And then Talmadge Page Academy, PG&E, completed their work over the summer. So I wanted to give you an update on that.
So
Okay.
when do those leaseback payments start on LJ?
They're gonna be starting soon. I don't have a timeline on those
Okay,
yet, but they will be starting soon.
okay.
And the next safety update?
All right,
Julie?
wanted to give a brief little update here. With school underway, our teachers and staff have had the pleasure of experiencing a lot of trainings. One of them is our mandated reporter training. All staff must be trained in reporting child abuse, any suspicion of neglect. The other training was sexual harassment prevention training, in addition to bloodborne pathogen exposure prevention training. So it's been lots of fun trainings, and I appreciate everybody bearing through all of those. Those are not easy, and thank you to all the administrators who are doing that in their first staff meetings, and thanks to all the staff who have sat through all of those long, arduous trainings.
Oh, Julie?
Yes.
In reference to the email I sent you about that and your response, so that any employees who took those trainings at home before school started will be reimbursed?
Not reimbursed. So what happens is an allocation of time. So principals allocate time during their professional development day. Most of the folks have done this already, and so if they'd already completed it, they had time to go prep in their classrooms. So for anybody who did it over the summer and was smart and got it done, they had extra time, but it wasn't a monetary reimbursement. And everybody else was given work time to complete their trainings.
So the people who did it ahead of the school year were not reimbursed?
No. So they get extra time. So while everybody else had to do it during their professional development time, which is while they're on the contract time, their work day, they were able to prep. So they got prep time. They didn't have to sit there and do that. They could organize their classrooms, prepare, do lesson plans, things along those lines. It's a trading of time. In addition to those trainings, other teachers and paraprofessionals were trained in PROACT training, which is a de-escalation training. A lot of our special ed staff was trained in that as well. All principals are reviewing the IIPP plan, which is the Injury Illness Prevention Plan, and site and safety procedures, emergency response. They will be drilling early on in the school year, so everybody is clear with their expectations in the case of an emergency. And I know everybody has high concerns about that, obviously, with the state of affairs today, but our teachers and staff will be ready for that. And we've done a number of CPR trainings. Our nurses have offered trainings. They are voluntary. Again, all of our office managers last year took a CPR training, so it's a 2-year certification, and that's been fabulous. And nurses are busy training all our staff on medical needs for students, whether it be EpiPen procedures or medication administration, so folks are great. And again, constant practicing and training for, in the event, and heaven forbid, an emergency, but our staffs are prepared to do so. Update. Back to you.
Okay. All right, enrollment report. So I'm going to switch this and do the 10-day count before I talk about Richard Crane. I'm going to pass out the day 5 enrollment count. And I want to talk to you a little bit and make sure the board understands what this report is about and why at this point we can't hang our hat, so to speak, on the numbers. What we're talking about here are kids in the seat. This is not our actual enrollment. Early in the year, the enrollment data is really in flux. We still have students that are in the system that may not actually end up coming to school. They haven't been dropped yet. We still got kids coming into the classes. So what we do here is we basically look and we say on a given day, who shows up? And what this does is it helps us not only to kind of see where we're at somewhat with our attendance and our enrollment, but it also helps us with planning for staffing. That's one of the primary reasons for that. We wanted to give this to the board to show you kind of where we're at. What makes this report a little bit challenging is, well, what do these numbers really mean? What are we going to compare it to? So it would not be useful to take kids in the seat, which is definitely going to be less than our overall enrollment, and say, well, let's compare it to our enrollment from last year. It's not a fair comparison. So what we're doing here is we're actually comparing day 5, okay, to day 5 of last year. And we're going to see kind of what's that look like? And what we're seeing on these trends through day 5 is the numbers are changing each and every day pretty drastically. I think we had 27 new students from yesterday or the day before count.
So, I have to interrupt. So, I understand comparing day 5 last year to day 5 this year. But to me, what's crucial for ADA funds is where we ended up and where we're starting out. And
so we can tell you where we ended up,
Right.
but where we're at as far as enrollment that's the piece. The data still has a lot of moving pieces in there.
okay, is that, so I look at, I'm holding April, I don't have May's here, but April was 5749. And what was May?
So May would have been 5740. So I did include that in there just so you
Okay.
kind of see where.
And so, right now, so is it 5692? But without knowing possibly that some students haven't showed up yet, possibly? So that is 48 students. Do we know, 48 down from the end of the year to starting, do we know that we have 48 pending out there that could possibly show up?
Well, the thing is, you may have students showing up, but you may have some that are in the system that are going to be dropped. So-
Robert, would it
Are
help
we-
for clarification,
Sure.
if, what number do we build the budget on?
5,740.
Okay. So I think that's the number we're going to be looking at because that's what we base the budget on. And
Right.
so we're going to be looking at that number to see, do we reach that?
Right.
Because that will result in the funding, which will then let us know that our budget's built on that number, or we need to make some adjustments, ideally, to where we can spend more money, or where we have to make some reductions.
Yeah, so right now, if I understand that, we're 48 short. And hopefully in the next week or two, we'll have to do an update. I mean, that's,
I think we're monitoring closely, but I think it's important to remember that it's average daily attendance. And so we're going to look at the enrollment, but we're going to look at how it plays out for the whole school year.
right.
But to be very on top of it now, particularly for staffing. And the good news is we're not overstaffed.
Well, we went into this year conservative. but
Very much
last
so.
year,
And
we ended
so,
up with 150 short, and I
Yeah.
don't want to say we're overstaffed, but we had some classrooms.
it was
that
my
had-
first question yesterday. How are we doing on staffing? And
Yeah.
so
Yeah,
we're right on target.
okay. Okay, and we worked on that as part of the budget review is to go into this conservatively. And so I think we've done that, so, but we still have to come up with that 48.
So when will we have a firmer number, Robert?
The farther we get into the month, the more reliable that number will be. As we move towards the actual end of the month 1, will be, so the end of August numbers will be a little bit more.
So if we're not going to have another board meeting till third week of August, could we get
Or
something, excuse me,
Yeah.
September? Could we get something emailed to the board members?
Sure.
I don't know.
We can include it in the weekly update.
Yeah,
can we do the
that would be,
superintendent update
Yep.
on every
Absolutely.
Friday?
Yeah, I know, I recognize the board's concerned, as we all are, the importance of that. The part that I really wanted to try to portray here, I wanted to give you some information, but with the caveat, there's a lot of moving pieces right now, so we're not really sure where we're gonna end up.
personally, I would rather see it this way than pie in the sky the other way and make decisions on spending on something that doesn't materialize. And this is what we talked about in the budget committee of why we wanted to see this monthly. I know you were there. So that we didn't get surprised again to find out, oh, we budgeted 75 kids that are no longer here. We don't want to go there again.
Absolutely.
So making adjustments as we go while difficult decisions might have to be made. I'd rather know it now than 9 months from now.
Absolutely.
So, thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
And then for the expanded transitional kindergarten and transitional kindergarten, just remind us, you do not get ADA money for the expanded, and we do get ADA for the transitional.
Until their
correct?
birthday, right?
Yeah, until they turn 5. So with this, the students that are in the TK that fall within the September 2nd to December 2nd date, we get funding for them. It's anybody who falls after December 2nd, and once they turn 5, that's when we collect
And it looks like we have 8 here,
yes.
a much smaller number than in previous years, so.
Well, I think that's why some of the classes are blended now, K1 and first and second in some cases.
We staffed very conservatively this year and
Right.
then did not
Yeah.
take a number of ETKs.
Okay. Any other questions? I'm sorry I interrupted, got off subject, so I just kind of,
I did want to give an update on Richard Crane because because of their their schedule, they've actually have completed, their month one is as of January 31st. And they're at 193 students. That's what's in the system. So their data's a little bit cleaner on that.
okay.
Okay.
It looks-
They're at 189.
Right, remember, that's kids in the seat. That's kind of showing you some of the difference there. The kids in the seat's going to be less than the actual enrolled student count.
So you're saying the actual student count is 190?
3.
Which is up 9 from last year, which is good.
Yes, it
As
is.
long as those 9 are just not transfers from another school, and that school's down. now,
Yeah, and we
so.
can't look at that yet.
Well, we know enrollment is going to be in flux through the year. It
Right,
always
no,
is.
it always is,
Right.
so, but, you know, paying attention to it's critical, so. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, so, lose my place here. We will go to,
Richard-
12B.
What about Richard Crane?
Huh? He just talked
Oh,
about
you,
it.
oh, yeah, sorry.
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
okay, yeah.
Yeah,
sorry.
their enrollments, their month one's complete, and they have 193 students.
Okay, 12B, Resolution 1920-3, authorization for Michael Wattenpaw, Robert Maricow, Julie Sinyard, Ray Poe, Rachel Allen, Matthew Marshall, and Josh Savage to sign on behalf of the Board of Trustees. So may I have a motion, or is there any questions about this? Not, may I have a motion for Resolution 1920-3, 12B?
I'll make a motion that we adopt 12B 1920-3.
Have a second?
Second.
Roll call? Yes?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Go to 12C. We have one speaker on 12C, Amy Miller.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Amy Miller. I teach 5th grade at Thomas Page. I'd like to join everyone in welcoming Dr. Wattenpaw. Looking forward to your visit, I believe, tomorrow. So thanks for being here. I wanted to speak to this item because I'm concerned. I did notice that Dana Swalliver and Kelly were on, signed through to August of this year. And I just want to make sure that we're not going to use them again for the legal firm. It's my opinion that as a whole, we are moving toward a more unified collaborative place within all the entities that make up CRPUSD. And I feel like they were part of the movement that contributed to conflict and divisiveness and discord between the administration and our 3 unions. I know it's human nature to gravitate toward the familiar, but sometimes the familiar isn't the best choice or the most productive choice, and that's how I feel in this case. I was not part of the bargaining committee, so I didn't have a lot of personal interaction with DWK. But I just don't feel like that's a good idea. I want us to remain in this positive, unified direction. There's nothing wrong with sitting on different sides of an issue in negotiation and still showing respect for each of the parties. and that belong to a different part of the education network. And I don't think that that firm is the way to go. And I believe I read that they've been hired in Palo Alto, so they're doing fine. So I strongly encourage the board to choose a firm that will continue to move us forward in a more unified direction. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Amy. So last board meeting, we discussed this, and we had the presentation by 3 of the board attorney firms. Still have their folders here. Joe was on vacation, which we all are entitled to from time to time. We had the
The three Fs.
third, yeah, the 3 Fs. We had, this is their stuff. We had school and college services, and we also had
Lozano.
yeah, Rosano. We had Rosano Smith type of thing. So we had considerable discussion last time about, the possibility of picking one or picking several, which I call a smorgasbord, and you kind of, because we're currently using different legal firms for, different things. Hi and goodbye. So tonight, we brought it back to make a decision, so I'd like to have some more discussion of this from the board members to their preference and see if we can come to a solution going forward, whether or not we pick one or we pick, attorneys as needed when we go through the year as our alternatives. And
Mr. President, can I make a comment?
you sure may.
So I recognize I'm coming late to this discussion. And
Better
again,
late than
so
never.
I'm not familiar with all of the intricacies, but I would comment that I would encourage the board to consider looking at having staff make the decision on which firms are the best for which particular arena. My experience has been that there are some firms that their expertise in special education is exquisite, or their expertise may be in fiscal services. And so I think that the board may choose an attorney that's going to represent the board when the board needs representation. I think that it's very limiting if the district only has one firm to work with, because there are times when we may have a special need of expertise that that particular firm does not have. And so I think that at the very least, I would encourage the board to continue the conversation and to let staff perhaps provide some additional information to flush out kind of what I'm talking about. But as I said, I'm new to the conversation, but I think that it limits the district in terms of protecting the interests of the kids and the community if we only have a single firm to represent the district.
Well, I have a point of clarification building on what you said. At the June, I think it was the June 24th, pretty sure it was a special meeting, subsequent to interviewing the 3 law firms, Lozano, F3, and College and Legal Services. Then we had a discussion on the 24th, and my understanding, I haven't gone back and listened to the tape, but my understanding is that we agreed to do just what you said, is let staff determine which firm is appropriate for which task, like SPED or representing the board or whatever. So the point of clarification I would like from President Brown is, why is it coming back for a discussion and a vote at this time? What changed between?
I think we discussed that, but we didn't all vote and agree upon that.
No, we didn't vote, but
So that's why it's back, because we have to, either we take no action and direct staff to pick as needed, or take action to pick one, or take action to, well, the smorgasbord thing. So,
I have a question for
so
Claire.
that's kind of where we were.
If DWK that we just voted on to extend through 8/31/19,
Right.
do we not have anyone on staff, so to speak, after August 31st?
Correct.
We would need to bring back a legal services agreement with DWK. And I would have to ask the staff that's been here, if we haven't renewed those contracts, we would bring them back in September for the various firms. And looking at what their rate structure is, those kinds of things. But it doesn't sound like the board has approved legal service contracts for the current school year.
No.
And I believe we received direction from the board to extend DWKs. That's why
We did, because I was using their services to obviously, negotiate superintendent services, and
Yeah.
also for a Public Records Act a request that I got, that I needed their services to respond. So we needed someone to be, for the month of August to do that. So something may come up in September, that we will have to engage an attorney. Obviously, our approach is to stay out of any legal situations where we have to employ legal things, and hopefully going forward, we can do it as much as possible. Unfortunately, that doesn't always happen. So,
I think that the district would be safe in moving forward. At this point, there's not much choice because it hasn't been agendized in terms of approving a legal services contract. However, if we find that we are in a need to get some very specific legal advice, I would do that with the authorization of the board president and inform the other board members that we were going into, we're going to contact a firm for legal services, and then with the understanding that we'd bring that contract back for services at the next regularly scheduled board meeting.
See, the problem I have, I could never vote to approve a contract with DWK because of their history here, because I've spoken to many union members in all three unions, including union presidents, who had, like Ms. Miller said, who had very negative experiences with them, very hostile negotiating experiences. I have a stack of articles from around the state that show a pattern with DWK of exorbitant legal fees for a school district, excessive litigation. One down in Centinela Valley, teachers in the unions talked about excessive, extreme litigious behavior by DWK, running up legal fees, involved in Marin, involved in negligent behavior in terms of protecting the interests of the school board, school district. But the main thing is we have a long history of this hostile approach to the unions. Excessive fees, $250,000 a year for many years, unnecessary litigation that resulted in the district losing and paying out a lot of money, when the common sense approach would be to have some sort of mediation or have some sort of non-litigious discussions to prevent going down that road for many years and then losing the cases and paying a lot of money. That's our history with them. We have made a decision to move forward, to work collaboratively, and to, if we want to continue down this path of genuine collaboration, we cannot return to the past of acrimonious confrontation. And this is going to send a strong signal. If we sign a contract with DWK, it's going to send a strong, clear signal to all three unions that we are returning to the past and not moving forward with genuine collaboration. And we've seen a pattern. I mean, anyone is welcome to read these articles. We see a pattern of that approach with DWK throughout the state. It's not just us. It's a pattern. And I could never vote for a law firm that follows this type of practice.
I think that the comments made by the speaker were well taken. I think that in any labor negotiation situation where the district has legal representation, just as the union has representation from their organization, you want to develop a working relationship where everybody can speak in a respectful way, that everybody's treated with dignity and respect. And again, second day. But I think that it would be important for staff to look at all of those things and then to come back with a recommendation that, in consultation with the union, in consultation with the board, so that we do get started on a good foot. That sounded horrible. That we get started on the right foot as we move into the next school year.
So in the meantime, just to be clear, if you need legal representation, you're going to have to call DWK and say, we need help, blah,
Just
blah,
till the
blah.
31st.
Yeah. But what happens if something happens on
If something
September
else happens,
5th?
I would, again, depending on what the specialization needed would be, I would consult with our staff that's here
Okay.
to see who we've had good experiences with. I would probably provide some opinion myself, and then look to who is the right person to handle a particular situation. And again, consult with the board president and clerk, inform the other trustees that we were going to move forward to handle this particular situation. But then a contract would be forthcoming for the board's consideration at the next meeting. From what I've heard this evening, I think that staff has clear direction on the direction we're going to be going.
Okay. So you'll come back with something in September
Yes.
for us to take a look at for these firms that we interviewed?
Yeah, and maybe
Okay.
some others.
Okay.
Not very many had, well,
I-
those were the three.
Right, but I mean,
That's
one of
submitted.
the ones that we've used for special ed isn't in here. And so if we need to go back to them.
That's
or
Gerard and.
your Gerard, or if there's somebody else out there that,
It sounds like that this is just the right time to kind of just take another look at everything and to, again, be respectful of the comments and feelings that have been expressed, and to look at what's going to be in the best interest of everyone, so that everyone feels good about moving forward.
and the other thing too is if we go into negotiations, maybe we go with a different approach where we do not bring in an attorney, and we do it without that.
That's a
You know, and-
strategic decision the board and staff will need to make.
Right, yeah. So I mean, those are the choices that,
Yep.
Going forward type of things.
Yep.
So any other comments, questions, concerns? So by not making a motion and not doing anything, we will go forward.
It just dies for
Yeah,
tonight.
it dies and then goes from there. Anyone have any other concerns or questions about that? Okay, great, thank you. We will go on to 12D, acceptance of gifts and donations to the schools. So I want to thank the Cachati Police Department for I think they're doing this almost every year, aren't they? Yes, for providing for Thomas Page Academy. I have to add that, I have a confession I made. I helped out one teacher buy supplies this year. I was in Office Depot, buying a printer, and this woman was buying stuff, and I said, "Are you a teacher?" She said, "Yeah." I said, "Where do you teach?" Rancho Cotati. I'm paying for your supplies. So I'm sure there's
Did he
299
or she go
other-
back for more?
Pardon me? Yeah. They said, put my account on there. They told everyone else at the high school to go there, and it's amazing, type thing. So thank you, Cotati Police Department. And then also thanks to the Ed Foundation for their contribution of $40,180. And that's all the grants that they write for the teachers, right? Yeah, so thanks for that.
Based on their fundraising.
Based on the fundraising.
They got a lot of my money that night.
Well, they got a lot of my money this year too, just for that table.
Next year's table.
So
right
no,
in front.
good cause. So can I have a motion to accept the gifts and donations as stated here?
I'll make a motion to accept the gifts as stated.
Okay, can I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. 13, board member reports and future agenda items. So, anyone want to go first?
Sure, I'll go first.
Okay.
Okay. Well, I want to start out by saying thank you to Julie Senior and Robert Miracle for stepping up as our interim superintendents and sacrificing your summertime off with your families and getting our schools open and off to a great start. I really appreciate that. We couldn't have done it without your leadership. Thank you to Josh Savage and his team for getting Tech High ready to open. on time, and Principal Mo Winnie and her staff are pulling together and getting their classrooms and office put together for opening day. I had the opportunity to attend the opening day at our TAG building and celebrate our employees and watch them receive their pins for their tenure in the district. That was great. As most of you know, my youngest son graduated in June, and the night before school started, I figured out that this was going to be the first time for the first day of school since 1993 that I wouldn't have a student in our district. So that was like pretty like wow.
But you have a granddaughter coming up.
I do have a
Yeah,
granddaughter
so do
coming.
I. you
Yep.
know, So we're both counting the days.
Yes, exactly. I did, though, also do a little bit more math, and I figured out that this first day of school was my 41st first day of school in this district. 41st. That includes myself as a student and as a parent, and then now as a trustee. So,
42 years old, huh?
yeah, I was 2. I was lucky to join Assistant Superintendent Sinyard and Student Services Director Matt Marshall at Tech High for their opening day and join them for their morning touring of schools and see all the happy faces. I also attended Tech High's Welcome Back Barbecue. I was happy to see how many families were there, and I have to say it was wonderful to see these students having their own campus and their own school to call home. Kids were in the gym playing basketball, the stage was set with their DJ, the ASB was selling spiritware, and their students were giving tours and just hanging out in their new student service room. So it was it's great to see them have their own identity. I would like to acknowledge the Cotati Police Department and all the businesses that came together and raised the funds for the backpacks and supplies for every single student at Thomas Page Academy. This is what community support looks like, and I love that they're creating a positive relationship between themselves and the students. I think having a positive relationship with the police department and the students makes a world of difference with the kids. For future agenda items, I would like us to look into this. The California School Boards Association is calling for the legislature to raise school funding to the national average by 2020 and the average of the top 10 states by 2025. I don't believe anyone in this room thinks that being 41st place is good enough for California, good enough for our schools, or good enough for our 6.2 million students. We're watching our neighboring districts are going on strike to try to get raises, and it's time for all of us to come together and go directly to the state and fight together to get the funding that we deserve to have at our schools. So they have put together a resolution that I would like us to
Sure.
bring
Yeah, no, that,
to the board and have
yeah,
a
we should
conversation about.
add that next
Thank you.
time. Thank you.
And that's it.
Great, thank you. Tim?
Yeah, I'd like to thank Robert and Julie for doing a fantastic job over the last couple months. Thank you. And you've been very responsive and meticulous in your work, and I'm just very thankful. I was hoping to meet with Superintendent Watenpaugh soon to discuss a English learners master plan. We have about 45% Latino students. Other school districts like Santa Rosa and elsewhere in the state have EL master plans. You can't improve on equity without a vision, and we need to pull together members of our Latino community and maybe even consider setting up a committee like the Special Education Committee that we set up as an ad hoc committee. And I feel like this is really important given the changing nature of our communities and state.
Okay. I'll go next. So I saw Tech High a week before opening day, and then I saw it a day before opening day. What a huge transition. So there's still a few steps to go on there, but that's exciting. The welcome back for all teachers and all the service awards is always special. Seeing all the dedication and all the years of service to our students and to our district was fun. One of the things, Krista might talk about it, is the safety drills at the high school.
Yeah, that was pretty awesome.
So you can talk about that. But what we've been waiting for is welcome Mike, and thank you for all the hard work for everybody, until we had a new interim. One of the things that we were going to try to do when we had a new superintendent is set our goals. And what I'd like us to do either in September or at a special meeting is come up with maybe a couple goals from now until we get a permanent superintendent. So that we can focus on, I know there's a lot of important things, but I keep saying we need to focus on fiscal responsibility and student achievement, and how, the demographics and the programs of the students roll into that. So I don't know what best to do that. It would be in September. I mean, you've got a certain amount of time to meet staff and
I think we could begin, I think that I would likely begin by using the LCAP as the beginning of that conversation, since the
Okay.
board has adopted that as their plan to improve student performance across the district.
Right.
And so I think looking at that and looking at what are the actions and services that we have set up to provide students to do that, and then to get feedback from the board if there's other areas that a majority of you can agree on, in terms of what might that be, and then what might it look like, and how is it going to be measured? And so I think that we can begin that conversation. My hunch is it probably is more than a one-meeting conversation.
Right.
Just my guess.
Right. Should we, well, so we probably should schedule a special meeting in September just to talk about, initializing our goals, because we wait till September and then a follow-up meeting in October, before you know it.
Yep.
We're into the holidays and we haven't, so the sooner the better.
Yeah.
So,
No, I think we have a good basis with the LCAP, and I think that that'd be a good starting place.
okay, good. That's all I have. So, Krista?
A couple of things I'd like to see going forward. Included with the agenda, there's two issues. One is there are a lot of attachments that don't come with our agenda packet, so we have to go to the website and kind of root through. I'm one that does paper because I take notes and whatnot. I would prefer to have the warrants, any contracts included, I have to root for the enrollment report because it's not in our packet that's emailed to us. I have to go to the website to find it. So I would prefer, I don't know about anybody else, having one full packet as opposed to going to the website to try to figure out what's missing from my packet that I need to print. And then anything I also noticed, and I just haven't brought it up, any suspensions or expulsions or anything, my understanding is we used to get those.
Yeah, a while back, a long time ago, maybe a couple of years ago, those were included in our packet. I'm looking for Matt Martin. And so now we don't see those.
Well, no, you go into the office to view them.
Yeah, in my spare time. So if there's a way that we could get them back.
Julie, can I just ask a question really quickly? My understanding is that an administrative panel is overseeing the expulsions, but then the board adopts the recommendations?
That's correct. Yes. And since it's not typically suspension data, it's expulsion data.
Expulsions, right.
Expulsions. But going into the office, my fault. My life's too busy and I've chosen to ramp up a business. I'm on the road all the time. So for me to stop and come in for a couple hours, I know that's being selfish, but if that could be, and I know they're confidential too at the same time, so you don't want to put them online.
Right, the student
type
records
of
piece
thing.
is
So
very.
we used to get them paper-wise, so I don't know if there's any way to,
Even if we get it at the closed part of the session where we're voting on the thing and then give them back like we do for other things, that would be great.
That's fine.
Give
that's
us
fine.
15, 20 minutes to look at it
course.
and that'd be great. What else do I have? Oh, Mike Kirby, you won the trophy for the IT department, didn't you? Congratulations.
so what was that?
They had a team building
Oh, team building.
spirit for the IT department, and
Oh.
they had pool, and they had ladders, and they had these different things, ping pong. And I understand you won. That's what I heard. And the other thing that I got to participate and go to was the active shooter drill at Rancho. And Lieutenant Andrew Smith was awesome. So since I was the only board member, everybody had other things that they had committed to when we found out about it. It was last minute. But I spent almost 2 hours with him, and they had a bunch of kids that dressed each other up in horrid blood makeup. But they did all kinds of active shooting drills where students were shot and screaming. They were firing blanks, and so it was intense, and them coming with all their weapons drawn. He really wants, Andrew Smith is in charge of this program. They did one a couple years ago at LJ, and this was the first one they did at Rancho. They were actually in one of the two-story buildings, and it was interesting to watch. The police officers weren't supposed to stop and help a fallen officer, and they did. So that was a ding. They were supposed to get to the shooter. So he wanted to make clear that none of this is a secret. We had been told several years ago that we couldn't talk about it. He said it's absolutely not true. He wants more involvement. So he asked when you came on board, when our new interim superintendent came on board, to reach out to him because he would like to go to every school and meet with all the staff. His best goal would be the maintenance person who's on every site would like to be the first point of contact. And that came up because in talking to 4 or 5 of the guys that were standing there during one of the breaks, the first thing onto the Rancho campus is who's got the keys. And so that took them a bit of time to figure out who had the keys to the locked classrooms. So they can't keep them at the police department because the person who would be in charge of the keys might be out ill or on vacation. So how did they get the keys if they had a first point of contact? So it was really fascinating to go through the whole thing. So he wants to be involved at every school site and age appropriate what's happening.
Yeah, that's going to be my question because
Yeah.
being familiar with having active shooter drills for kindergarten, not cool.
No.
It's more like a giraffe is on campus.
Yeah.
And that's what we're going to hide.
why he talked
yeah,
about how
yeah.
he wanted to have a meeting with the administrative
Gotcha.
staff at each school site first.
Well, we'll make a point of setting up some time with him and figuring out how we can coordinate our efforts with the River Park Police, but also with Cotati.
Yep, and then the new tech high coming on
Right.
board. He was like, we don't even know anything about that. So
Okay.
it was a fascinating.
Well, I understand there used to
fascinating
be 2 + 2 + 2 meetings, and maybe we should get those rolling again.
thing. Yeah. Yeah, so it was an eye-opening experience, I'll tell
Sounds
you.
like it. We'll follow up.
Okay, thank you.
And just a side note for the police officers, I'm amazed that being a police officer, their new objective in situations like that is a lot different than what it was before. And they're risking their lives to save more lives, and it's just, I have a lot of gratification for those individuals that dedicate their lives to do that, and to go through this training and an obligation that they did. Unfortunately, there was an officer in one of the shootings back east that got reprimanded for not going in and charging. So it takes a lot of training and their ability to do what they have to do.
Well, and Lieutenant Smith did say that their goal, and this is part of, because I was asking him, well, what happens in this situation? What happens in that? He said, our only goal is to go in and neutralize the shooter. That is the first goal, not who's shot, who's hurt, who's missing. And then my second question to him was, where is it broadcast to parents in the community? If there's an active shooter that comes over your Nixle, where do parents go? You can't all descend on a school where most of our schools have 2 roads, one in, one out. You're going to be blocking all of the emergency responders coming in. So that was one of the things he said, well, we need to meet with each school because each school's, and he's got kids now just starting over at Evergreen. And so same thing he said. And you have some parents who will tell their kids, if this happens, do this. Now you have 100 kids with 100 plans because we don't have a hole. So do the parents at Rancho all go to Spreckles? Do we stay as far away from that as possible?
Well, then you just have to deal with social media and what kids have in their pockets.
Yeah.
So
We're going to go to the San Mateo School District model.
but I
Fix
think,
that.
That was pretty awesome. Did you read the article where?
haven't read it,
No, I'm
no.
off
They-
subject, so, yeah.
No, that was a great thing, and I looked at that today, where they banned all phones.
I
They
did- oh,
bought
yeah, I did
these
see
little
that.
devices where the kids have to put their cell phones in, and they have a software that locks them all day till the final bell.
okay.
Okay.
Pretty
I'm sorry,
amazing.
I interrupted.
Sorry, go ahead, Joe.
Okay, Joe?
Yeah, I would, same thing. I like to thank Robert and Julie for stepping up. It's kind of nice to know that we have someone to lean on when we didn't have a superintendent, it wasn't like, oh my God, what are we gonna do? It's, I hope they will want to do this, not that we were worried that we can find someone capable of doing it. So I really appreciate that.
They can continue doing parts of it if they want.
No,
And
we got
thank you
too
for
many
coming. I
things
know
that,
you're
he's
probably
trying to get out of
looking
work.
forward to
Don't let him do that.
retirement, and I heard you had to withdraw your retirement papers, which,
I did, but happily so.
yeah, well, yeah, but obviously you're here, so hopefully you're here because you really want to be.
Thank you very much.
But I appreciate that. For me personally, I haven't been able to go to the things. I've been working like Saturday, Sunday, late, starting at 5, staying till I can't move. So getting these things is really hard, but I did get to take the day off. My daughter, she started TK at Hahn. We found out Friday, and then by Tuesday, she had the school song memorized, literally like memorized word for word. She was extremely excited. She was starting to do homework that weekend to get ready for school. So
She's going to 3rd grade next week.
yeah, she's ready. But and then my son, he's in 5th grade at Hahn, so it's the only year that they'll be in school together. So it's kind of cool. And then also my wife, she's on the PTA for Hahn, so I get to help set up. They did like a little lunch for the staff and teachers, so it was kind of cool. I mean, I wasn't really a part of it. No one knew I was there. I had to like run to the store and do all the stuff that was whatever. But just knowing that I got to like help out with that was kind of cool. Getting more involved and doing those little things for the people that are with your kids all day is pretty nice. So.
Thanks. So superintendent's report.
Superintendent report. I'm going to ask Julie to take the first item.
Okay.
Excellent. My pleasure. Well, I would love to introduce one of our new administrators. And Mr. David Gottlieb, do you want to come up or just stand and be recognized? And David is our new principal of Lawrence Jones Middle School. Let's give him a big round of applause. I love it. We stole David from a school down in Marin Primary, and very strong background in special education. We kind of unfortunately like to train our administrators trial by fire, kind of in the first few weeks, and he got to deal with construction and changes and all that, and he's handled the situations, everything that's been thrown at him swimmingly. And we appreciate you being here, and welcome to our team. Thank you, David, very much.
Thank you. Welcome.
Well, I just want to say thank you for such a warm welcome. I am extremely honored to be here. I'm really happy to be here. I had very good experiences when I was here for 4 years, 12 years ago. It sounds so odd. And am excited to be here now and have the opportunity. I'll be at all the school sites in every classroom, as well as our maintenance and operations yard and everything else. To talk with staff and to see what's going on, talk with kids, and do a lot of listening. I think really in the first few weeks, I'm going to be doing a lot of just watching, and probably will end up with a big book of questions, just in terms of the things I've seen and am interested in knowing more about. I would intend to provide the board an overview of what my quote-unquote findings are, or questions, probably in October. And again, as I've shared with many people, I see myself as I'm here to set the table for the next superintendent. That when you identify a permanent superintendent, that he or she should have everything ready to roll so that they can just roll up their sleeves and get to work. To me, it doesn't feel like, it feels like there's a lot of really great things going on, and I'm really excited to get out to the schools and to see it firsthand. I think that our employees that do the work every single day, regardless of their role, play an important role in our community. And I want to be able to talk with them and find out what's going to make their jobs easier, more doable. And we may not be able to do all of the things, but hopefully we can. But at least we can provide the recognition to folks that are doing the really hard work with kids on the front lines every single day. So I'm really excited about going out and doing that. I began meeting, I met the district office staff yesterday morning, and was happy to see some familiar faces. It's like, wow, they're still here. And then began getting some briefings from the senior cabinet staff yesterday. So I'll be at Rancho Cotati High School tomorrow, as well as, where am I going, Thomas Page? Is that where I'm going, Thomas Page? Good, thank you. I'll be at all of you somewhere in the next couple weeks. So back to school nights start this Thursday, and we provided the board with a listing of those. The district office administrator staff will be spreading out and going to, there'll be representation at each of the back to school nights to say hi to staff and say hi to families that are there. And if interested board members would like to go, just let Mindy know that you're gonna swing by if you're able. The California School Board's annual conference is at the end of November, beginning of December. There are some trustees that are planning on going. If you're interested, please let Mindy know so she can make the arrangements. I'll also be attending. And I know that there are some trustees participating in the Masters in Governance program, and I would be happy to attend with you. So if you're interested in going, I would like to tag along. And again, it was day 2, and I'm coming back tomorrow. So
That's a good record.
it's good. No, again, I really thank you for the honor, and I'm excited to be back in this community.
Thank you for coming back. So, with that, we will go to C. We will adjourn the meeting.